Hi, Nancy. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello, I'm by myself, huh? I think Deliverance is trying to
We
get
will get her here in just one moment.
okay. Well, I will, introductions are first, so I will go ahead and start in the interest of time. I am Nancy Flournoy, uh, big title, Curator's Distinguished Professor Emerita at the University of Missouri. That means I'm not getting paid, but I do get support services like IT and library help, which is very useful because I'm continue to be productive in terms of statistical research. So I started my career at a time when sexism was legal and blatant. The greatest model that I could identify with on the television was my highest and greatest goal was I could keep a clean sink. Somehow it didn't really excite me, but there was nothing else in view. I have to thank my older brothers for conditioning me to expect to be unwanted. The fact that I was not sought after for company and that people didn't really want to have me around was just the way it was. I was used to it. I can't say it didn't bother me, but it didn't bother me so much because it was what I had grown up with. I did have, I always wanted to play with the boys, and I worked hard to join their company. But it wasn't long before I realized that I had far surpassed anything that my brothers had accomplished and that I should reassess what my motivating goals were. It did, though, it was the case that really no amount of harassment could make me go away. So that was a great boon to me. By my mid-20s, well, I already, so the main focus of my career, really all around, was to avoid being under the thumb of somebody I thought was half as intelligent as I was, and to not let someone force me into subservience simply because they were male. And I've had a really nice and successful career as a result of that. But so it sounds like kind of a strange motivation, but that really has been my guiding principle. So now I'm happy to be joined by the rest of the panel here.
Nancy, real quickly, we're almost out of time for introductions, but could you just explain very briefly what your interest what your interest for this panel is? Why were you interested in joining this panel?
Well, I've had a lot of stressful situations and managed. I mean, it's sort of the story of my life, so it fits right in.
That's a good answer. Okay, Gugji, did I pronounce that correctly?
Good. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Deliverance. I'm managing bioinformatics and statistics core at the Wartime UF Scripps Institute. I'm drawn to this panel because it feels like stress and conflict are mandatory skills today, where so many people are suffering all around the world, and I can't do much about their suffering, but I am trying to focus on the suffering that is happening at the workplace. And how can I ease that problem is by sharing my experience, be supporting other people who are going through similar things. I have had my, there are like reasons why I had to learn how to thrive. I'm an immigrant. I don't have any other family other than my partner and my child in this country. English is not my first language. I'm neurodivergent and I'm a recovering people pleaser. I have experienced different types of challenges and learned to survive or even thrive in work environments. At the end, psychology became another hobby of mine, but I love sharing what I've learned. For me, emotional awareness, knowing your values, healthy communication, and forming a community are the important steps in sustaining our well-being. and spark creativity in toughest environments.
Thank you. So real quickly, I'm chairing this session. My name is Deliverance Bougie. I'm a survey statistician at the United States Census Bureau, though I want to emphasize I'm here in my personal capacity, not representing the Bureau. And I came to statistics through a midlife career change after working in social services. Along the way, I've been in workplaces where thriving was not easy and where success sometimes felt out of reach. Those experiences gave me a deep empathy for the struggles many of us face at work when stress, conflict, and uncertainty are present. And what I've learned is that vulnerability, sharing my challenges and my story, which may feel embarrassing to me, has been a powerful way to connect with people, especially women who see themselves in those same struggles. So for me, participating in this panel is about giving back and extending that support and creating space for honest conversations that help us all find strategies to thrive together. So Nancy, the next question is, what are some signs of a toxic environment and potential action steps you recommend?
Well, as I said, when I started my career, sexism and was blatant, and toxic was the name of the day. So there wasn't much of a question about identifying it. Later in my career, of course, it was people were more passive aggressive, and hostility was camouflaged, so that there were times when I didn't even recognize it for a very long time. So I will say more about that with the next question, but I recommend that everyone stay vigilant and be patient and brave and be prepared to jump.
Thanks, Nancy. Bougie, how about you?
I feel like, the saying, the hurt people when a place is toxic or the managers have other issues and they don't know how to resolve them, they pass it on to other people. And in my experience, when I see that I'm at a workplace where people are not happy, they feel like they need to censor themselves, or you dread receiving email, that's a clear sign of toxicity. If our emotions like anger and anxiety start hijacking our responses, for example, we're writing emails very quickly or trying to contact someone when they're sick, that's a red flag. And in these places, unfortunately, the management doesn't actively fight toxicity in a lot of times, and sometimes they even perpetuate it. Saying like that's how they're perfectionists, etc. They just like their whole life is work. They try to put like nice stickers all over their terrible behavior. And you go home and you feel exhausted, so exhausted that you cannot even look for another job. And you also lose your confidence as well. And that's why I, like Nancy, a lot of times I didn't even notice it when it happened. My recommendation is learning to be self-aware, learning our emotions, but not be judgmental of our emotions. And as a scientist, hopefully this will come naturally to most of us. And once you're aware of your emotions and accept them, because we cannot change our emotions, we can only manage them, then you can bring your values into the picture. For example, if I receive an email on a Saturday, do I become reactive and respond to it right away? And then other person feels like obliged to respond to and this chain never ends, right? I can, if I stop and say, am I in people-pleasing mode? Yes, I am. But does this work with my values? No, I actually rest and recovery is important values for me. And I don't want anybody else to not rest because I respond back to their emails. So I stopped doing that. I don't even check my emails anymore, actually. And sometimes these things work, and in other places, unfortunately, these boundaries or mindfulness does not work as well. And that's when I recommend people to form an advocacy group using, the HR, the colleagues, mentors at work.
So many good things that you mentioned there. I totally agree. It's hard to get in that cycle where you're just too exhausted to find something else, and you really need to. And I appreciate acknowledging your emotions and taking a moment there to recognize your emotions. And you can't change your emotions, like you said, but it's what you do with them. And I found for me that accepting my emotions is a major step. But then what I do with that is really important. And so for me, toxic work environments, you think about micromanaging and not respecting boundaries, like you said, calling people when they're sick. And among women, we tend to frequently encounter bias or dismissiveness. And when our voices are dismissed, whether that's being interrupted in meetings or having an idea ignored until someone else repeats it, it's frustrating and it chips away at your confidence. And writing down these dismissals and biased comments kind of helps. Just journaling, keep documentation, helps to see these patterns clearly and provide some concrete, something concrete if you do need to bring something forward, and it takes the pressure off of feeling like it's just me. And along with documentation, finding your allies. When I've been talked over or having a colleague say, I'd like to go back to what she said, really reinforces that my voice matters. Gives me confidence as well. And I try to do the same for others. Amplifying each other's contributions make these subtle forms of bias harder to ignore, and it starts this shift in the culture towards respect. Just quickly move on to the next question. Nancy, again, back to you. Could you share a challenging time in your professional life and how you handled the situation?
Well, actually, I have, I noticed over a series of very different experiences that there was a pattern. I started out with a bachelor's degree, which I thought was pretty hot stuff, not knowing anything about higher education, got a job at UCLA, working for a outfit called Regional Medical Programs. And after having several statewide meetings with my peers as far as my title was concerned, they decided that a blonde-haired young lady didn't convey the proper gravitas for this. So they hired a doctor of public health whose stated job was to sign his name to my work and represent the program at the state meetings. He said, it's okay, you can continue to come to the meetings if you'll sleep with me. And then he would literally chase me around the copy machine during the day, etc. So you can kind of get the picture. Anyway, eventually I was fired for being an uppity woman, and I don't recommend these such uncontrolled exits. The subsequent experience was very different. I had a master's degree. Again, I thought I was pretty good. I went to work with the Seattle team that pioneered bone marrow transplantation, which later, it formed the foundation for the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. I was very successful with grants, and I had by the time the Cancer Center was formed, I had like a staff of 22 people. And at that point, I was in the way of the University of Washington Biostatistics Department because they had their eyes on creating a division of public health at the Cancer Center. So at any rate, I got pushed aside, both because of my own department finding myself in the way, and also because the doctors by that time came to realize that I had created a very valuable database that had a lot of valuable information, and they saw me as a person who was sticky on quality control. Again, I was in the way, so they also wanted me out of the way. This time I didn't go before I had some place to go, and I engineered my exit and became the first female director of the statistics program at the National Science Foundation. So the ongoing strategy, which repeated several more times during the length of my career, was that I built up a program in both cases. I was very successful, at which point the boys decided that they wanted what I had, and I was moved out, and I was moved out. Later I learned how to develop the way I moved a little later, but it was the same program. I mean, it was the same thing over and over again. So that's the pattern. I decided I came to recognize it, but I decided I could have been devastated by it. I've done this over and over and over again every time I'm starting over, except I started over at a different level. So I came to accept that this was the way it was and simply try to plan my my renewal strategy. I came to look at, that I'm starting over and I get to do something new and something different and something creative. So the challenge is to land on your feet in a place where you can continue to be creative and out from under the thumbs of people who want to control you.
Nancy, you've been through the gauntlet. That's it's incredible to hear these stories. You think that they're just made for TV stories, but they're not.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just said, unfortunately, they're not made
No.
for, I mean, they may be made for TV, but that's not it.
Yeah. Bougie, how about you?
I have several experiences, but I thought about what to share today, and I think I want to talk about the leadership role because I ran away from leadership role for a long time. Of course, I was told I can't be a leader at workplaces, but this current place I worked, I never thought I can be the director of the core I am in right now, although I had 12 years of post-PhD work. And what happened is they gave that job to a man who had 1 year of experience, zero experience with biology, etc. However, after 1 year of working with him and through our complaints, they demoted him and still did not put a director in that position. I realized that if I don't step up, others will, and they might not do a good job like my previous supervisor. So if you want to get it done right, you do it yourself. And I start asking for the leadership role. The interesting thing is other women have asked for similar roles for their course that they were managing. They told them they didn't have anybody that they were managing. I had someone I was managing. They told them they didn't have PhD. I had a PhD. To me, they simply didn't say anything when I said why I can't be the director. They will not reply back. And that's when I reach out to my colleagues, HR, make them known. And HR basically said that if you like, we can start Title IX process. And I said, let's not do that. We have a new management. And she recommended I talk to the PIs and lobby for myself, which was extremely uncomfortable, because I don't like to promote myself. I'm very uncomfortable about that. But I talked to the PIs and they gave me advice. I prepared the speech so that I won't be nervous when I was talking to our director. And without me giving the speech, he told me, that's nonsense. You should be the director, and immediately promoted me. But it took a village. It took all my coworkers, our therapists at work, our HR, and without their help, I would have left. So now I feel like if I could talk to my younger self, I will try to get to leadership positions earlier in life, because I'm a very caring person. I like to advocate for my team members. That gives me great joy. So I wish I considered this before, and maybe perhaps somebody today will be inspired by that experience.
I hope so. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like I've had it relatively easy compared to all the stories that, things that could happen. But in a previous job, I was the sole statistician in an oversight agency, and we were reviewing county data, and many of these counties hired vendors to collect their data. I heard the words, "I don't know anything about statistics, but here's why your analysis is wrong," many times from these vendors. And as frustrating as that alone was, at one point I found myself in a situation where one of the vendors refused to respond to my questions or comments about their data. He diverted everything to one of my male colleagues or my male boss, even at an in-person meeting. He never looked at me. He only looked at my boss, whether I was talking to him, I asked him questions. He just looked at my boss, and he responded to my boss. He directed his questions for me to my boss, who was sitting 2 people away from me. And this is where allyship really came into play. I had the full support of my boss and my colleagues who would redirect his questions and his responses to me and reiterate my responses. Remember that I was the sole statistician for this agency, so they would repeatedly say that whatever I stood as the statistician, whatever I said as the statistician, that's what stood. So it boosted my confidence, just to have my colleagues and my boss as my allies, and to not just that they had my back in the office when nobody else was around, but when we were dealing with our stakeholders as well. So we are doing okay on time right now, I think, and we've got 8 minutes for questions. I did see that we had some comments, but does anybody have any questions you can put in the chat? Your experiences are so validating. I appreciate that. I love hearing that, because that's why, you know, I've tried to make myself vulnerable and share my failures and my stories.
And
Yes.
it is important. I grew up just talking about sharing for a moment. My father always said they're going to kick a down dog, which meant if you expose any sense of vulnerability whatsoever, the pack will go after you and devour you. And so for, well into my career, the last thing in the world I would do would have been to suggest to anybody that I felt something negative or that something negative was wrong. I had a smile, plastered on my face, and no matter what happened, I smiled my way through it. So then the transition to talking, it's one thing, of course, being in academia, there's a point you get tenure, and now, you think that's one of the benefits that comes with tenure is you can open your mouth. And I see now, particularly in this latter part of my career, that I am opening my mouth, not just for myself, but for everyone out there who doesn't feel that they can. And so I try to take opportunities that are often offered to speak. And I'm pleased to be in a position where I can do that, and I'm sorry it's needed.
So I think it's really important as well to have ways to handle workplace stress outside of the workplace, because we take work home with us. It's hard to separate work and personal life. And for me, in my bio, if you read my bio, I talked about my hobbies. I'm weaving like crazy. Especially this year, I've just been obsessively weaving, and that is how I am. I'm dealing with all of the stress right now, and it's really been helpful, and try to make my weekends enjoyable and get outside and do the things that I enjoy, like backpacking and hiking and stuff. So good.
No,
What are some things? Sorry, I know this wasn't a planned question, but what are some things that you do outside? Oh, quickly, I want to get to this question.
Yes. I have a lot of hobbies as well. Creative hobbies. They apparently, if you're in creative mode, the anxious mind cannot work. It's locked in. So these days I'm obsessed with watercoloring. I don't need to be good at it. I just like it. Other days it's miniatures, sewing. I have a ton of hobbies that I keep switch around as I get bored.
Nice.
So I do ballet a couple times a week. I take a full class. I'm the oldest lady in the class, so everyone's very nice to me. But it's my passion. There was a time in high school where you had to decide: are you going to go dance or are you going to do mathematics? And so now I dance. And we have lots of trails for hiking just out my door, so I can take off. My husband has got medical problems, so I work in the morning and then I spend the afternoon on his issues, which have brought me to epigenetics. And so the last few years, we've been studying very intensely on epigenetics and how to actually switch genes on that have gotten turned off and how to find them. And his problem is around the brainstem, and it's like, how do you remake the brainstem, and not paying attention to the common thought, which is like, what makes you think you can do that? We don't ask that question. We just plunging ahead. And so spend about 3 hours a day on epigenetic research and I would say testing, but it's guinea pigging. There's no book to follow.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's fun.
Monica asks, I don't know if this was a question or a suggestion. Have you ever taken a formal leadership course, such as one lasting over a 6-month period? Such courses may be offered outside your workplace. Have either of you done any leadership courses?
I did Toastmasters. There's like a leadership part of that. But what they offer in University of Florida is there's an executive type positions. What do you need to do type of workshop. I attend to that one, but it's only 1 hour. Unfortunately, I did not have any time to attend any other formal, like long-term leadership workshops other than the Toastmasters, which took a year to finish.
I had no formal class. I learned somewhere along the line that not many people have ideas. That there's a lot of good people with a lot of good training and a lot of good knowledge, but they don't come up with that, what are you going to do idea. And I was always good with coming up with the what do you do idea, and found that if I put out an idea, there was always a group of people that would follow me. So it became a habit. And I just figure that's my place in the group, is to throw out the ideas.
Yeah, I have never done any formal leadership classes.
I can give one thing to that question. The reason after I did the bioinformatics director position, they also offered me the director of all course. And the reason they did that is during the pandemic, when we were all at home, I asked people if they want to meet on Zoom on Tuesdays, and everybody started to come consistently, although it was not part of our job. It was just for us to talk about work or our personal lives, just so that we can be connected. And I heard later on the administration was impressed that although I had no position, people were coming to those meetings. And I guess they thought that then they will accept me as the new manager easily. So there are things just like Nancy, we do instinctively. And I'm sure there are great courses that teach this kind of strategies, but I didn't do it for that reason, but it turned out that was used in their decision.
Thanks. Well, that's our time. Anybody feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure any of the panelists will welcome anybody reaching out. My name is not too hard to just Google me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me anytime. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you all.
Thank you.
Heart here, yes.